questions during today's presentation, please put them into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. We are recording this, and you will get a link to the recording a little bit later on after we finish. Our age-friendly communities help us stay connected. So what exactly is an age-friendly community? Quote our founder, Ethel Percy Andrus, "What we do for all." Age-friendly communities is one that provides opportunity for us to stay involved in what we value in our communities, regardless of our age. You'll hear more from my colleague, Antron Watson, today about our work here in this area in Massachusetts. But for now, in honor of LGBT History Month, I'd love to share a beautiful video about living history of the LGBT plus movement.
What would you do if no one cared for you? Imagine if you're honest about who you are, you could be killed. That's always been the reality for many LGBT folks since the birth of America. Many people lived in secret, fearful that someone would discover their truth. That was a motivation for Walt Whitman to write poetry that would beckon gay people to safe places where they could build community. Yet most LGBT people were still forced to live in isolation. Then Carl Maria Kurtbeny gave us the term homosexual and the power to identify. And writers like Alice Dunbar Nelson showed up. As a biracial, bisexual woman, her courage in the face of prejudice allowed more stories of LGBT people to be told. Like that of the Two-Spirit Zuni Native American Wewa who impressed President Grover Cleveland, but after her truth was fully known, she was villainized. Over time, LGBT people congregated in safe spaces, and we began to see more representation in art, books, and theater. America soon called women to fight, and a contingent of lesbians formed in the Women's Army Corps, which became a place where lesbian women could be themselves. After the war, many women refused to go back to traditional gender norms. All of this paved the way for the homophile era. For the first time, we saw people publicly demanding livable communities and LGBT equality. Later, scientific studies proved that homosexuality was not a psychiatric disorder that needed to be cured, and put an end to the practice of placing LGBT people in mental asylums. While there was a growing restlessness among gender nonconformists, one by one, LGBT folks rose up to defend themselves, rioting in places like donut shops, cafeterias, and bars. Their courage sprung from Magnus Hirschfeld's safe haven for LGBT folks, which inspired Henry Gerber to form the Society for Human Rights. This motivated countless LGBT people to create change and establish more LGBT organizations across America. By the time of Stonewall, it became impossible to ignore the gay liberation movement. Human rights leaders like Harvey Milk unapologetically called for each of us to live fearlessly in the open. His murder and legacy inspired a new generation of civic activists fighting for the civil liberties of the LGBT people. In solidarity, LGBT people of all ages, races, and genders, and their allies, demanded equality for their community at the first National Gay Rights March. Then, AIDS. Commonly called gay cancer, LGBT people with AIDS were denied health care. Many politicians were apathetic. Those afflicted had to harness the will to survive against all odds, while many in America refused to acknowledge this epidemic. People got angry, sparking a movement that encouraged the community to act up. When news revealed that AIDS affected even those who were not homosexuals, policies finally began to shift. By then, an entire generation had already disappeared, erasing many voices that carried our history. Homophobia and transphobia led to the violent loss of more lives, as gay activists lobbied for protections already offered to other people. Then legislation criminalized discrimination against LGBT folks. The military embraced gay Americans and did away with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Gay couples gained the right to legally marry anywhere in the United States. And now LGBT elders like Marshall Wetzel are fighting and winning legal battles for housing rights, underlining that everyone deserves freedom from harassment and discrimination, especially as we age. Today, National Historic Landmarks recognize significant LGBT events as part of America's history. When faced with death and injustice, LGBT people were forced to hide in the closet until the time was right to emerge as visible and vocal activists for equality. Even today, in the face of rising hate crimes, underrepresentation, and denial, LGBT people still struggle for acceptance and equality. 3 out of 4 LGBT older adults still worry about having enough support from family and friends as they age. This fight continues, and it's a fight where we all have a stake in. In the guiding words of AARP founder Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, what we do for all. Our movement that started as a fight for survival has become a story of resilience. This is progress paved by heroes in the past, present, and into the future. Now more than ever, it's time for all of us to stand up, speak out, and claim care for ourselves, for our LGBT community, and for our future. A living history of the LGBT movement, powered by AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/pride.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. My name is John Paul Hayworth. I am, as way as a visual introduction, I am a white cisgendered gay man in my 40s. I have on blue glasses, brown hair, and a red beard, and I have a green shirt on. I use visual introductions in almost all of my discussions and talks like this in order to make sure that our friends who have visual difficulties are able to fully participate in our programming as well. My role at AARP is as Senior Director of LGBTQ Audience Strategy, and I am excited, very excited to be here for, I believe, the second or third year in a row to talk to this group specifically about what we're doing here at AARP in order to better serve the LGBTQ audience. And when we say audience, what I mean is our communities that exist wherever you are in the U.S., whether you're in Massachusetts or New York or Washington, D.C., but also those in Fargo, North Dakota, Cheyenne, Wyoming, places where it is challenging sometimes to be an openly LGBTQ person. So one of the things that I am incredibly blessed to be able to do at my current role is to work with partners across the country to really harness the concepts of AARP throughout the country. And I want to talk a little bit about some of those partnerships, but also make sure that we are providing the information that you need in order to continue with our conversation. So, first of all, one of the things that we do, that I do in my role, is to identify, like I said, those partnerships that really make sense for us. And in Washington D.C. this year, we were the hosts of World Pride in DC, and it was a very successful event. And as part of that, AARP actually sponsored a group called Free Mom Hugs. And I don't know if you are familiar with that group, but it's an organization that does amazing things. It was originally created by a woman in Oklahoma who decided that how she was going to reconcile her own faith in Christianity with her son's being an openly gay man. And so she decided to start going to Pride events and offering hugs to those who didn't have that connection with their own families, and really kind of took off. I think it was in 2015. She posted something online where a young lesbian who was about to get married was very challenged by the fact that her own mother was not going to be at her wedding. And so the leader of Free Mom Hugs said, "I'll be your mom," and showed up at the wedding and walked her down the aisle and was there and created this network of family for those who felt like their own biological families were not there. And I think that's one of the things that, and part of the LGBTQ community, we are very skilled at creating our own communities because sometimes the larger society is not as welcoming as we quite would hope to for it to be. And for our own safety, sometimes it makes more sense for us to create our communities amongst those friends and families. And so that's one of the things that I think AARP does actually a really great job of as well, as you saw from Dennis and from for those of you who work with Antron and with other folks in AARP Massachusetts. You know that part of what we're doing is creating those age-friendly communities and finding ways of bringing people together in ways that they might not have already connected in other ways. So I want to make sure that we have plenty of time. Antron, did I miss anything that I needed to talk about before we go? Okay, I'm seeing the head shake. So I do want to bring in Lisa Krinsky from the Fenway Institute to talk a little bit about her work, and then we can talk a little bit more about some of the other exciting things that we're going to be talking about. Lisa.
Great, thank you, and welcome everybody. So I'm Lisa Krinsky. I'm the director of the LGBTQI plus Aging Project at Fenway Health in Boston. And we had, talked a little bit. First of all, I want to just say that video was really compelling and beautifully done and just really powerful. So thank you for creating and sharing that with us. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Massachusetts Commission on LGBTQ Aging, which was founded 10 years ago. And it's the first in the nation statewide commission on LGBTQ aging. And really the mission is to enhance quality of life for LGBTQ older adults in Massachusetts. We do that through state policy, through program recommendations, collaborations, partnerships, and advocacy. And we have a wide range of organizations, both LGBTQ organizations and aging organizations that sit on the commission, including a seat that's held by AARP Massachusetts.
Sorry, couldn't find the mute button. That's fantastic. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing a little bit more about that. I do have a question that I'd like to ask you to sort of kick us off and really help set some context here. Can you talk a little bit about and this comes up from our partnership with StoryCorps. Where have you found community and acceptance in your life?
Well, I think, first and foremost, the LGBTQI plus community. And I think that that video really talked to sort of the history that we've lived through various decades in the world and in our lives. But I think that that's really been a place of tremendous belonging for me, having worked in the field for 21 years. And being a member of the community myself, and that it has provided affirmation and empowerment and advocacy for the kind of culture change that the video highlighted.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the commission, and so why is it important for us to have a commission in Massachusetts?
Well, I think the video showed us a lot of the challenges that particularly older folks who've lived through those decades have dealt with. We know that folks are more likely to be aging alone without supports, have increased health considerations, and have had decades of discrimination. And there's real anticipated bias. Folks are really not trusting systems of care, systems that provide support for them. And really what we want to do is make sure that policies and programs are inclusive. They're attentive to sort of those unique experiences of LGBTQ folks. And we want that integrated into kind of the state networks of policy and programming that's happening at the state level.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit further into that and into the sort of the needs of the community that we're talking about here. So can you tell me or talk to me a little bit about sort of what the top things that you're seeing as needs in the LGBTQ aging community?
Sure. And I should just also say that like our vision in terms of what the needs are and where we want to end up, our vision is that LGBTQ older adults have equitable access to programs, services, benefits, social support that maximizes their quality of life. So that's where we want to end up. And I think the needs, we just completed a 5-year strategic plan process. And, one of the primary things that we identified was just wanting to do a statewide needs assessment to really be able to go across the state and hear from people about what their priorities are. But many of the things that we identified are kind of common topics when we talk about aging and older adults. It's affirming and affordable health care, it's safe and affordable housing, social supports and community engagement. And then we are also looking at policy as priority areas, policy and advocacy work, as well as expanding LGBTQ cultural competency around the state for providers. And so those are the needs that people are showing us. And again, their unique experiences impact access to healthcare, impacts housing issues. So the issues are similar for older adults, but the unique lived experience for our folks impacts sort of how they interact with those systems.
It's really interesting. I mean, I think there's, we've certainly seen a number of sort of national impacts in the LGBTQ health space over the past few years. I'm thinking, we had the very first LGBTQ person as head of the American Medical Association a couple of years ago. We have a new LGBTQ health directory that the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association has come out with. I'll put putting links to those in the chat for those who are interested in that as well. But I think too that some of those national impacts can really be felt in those local communities. So could you talk a little bit more about the actual impact or some of the programs that you're seeing in Massachusetts that are really making a difference for individuals?
Sure. So the impact of our work, sort of the big systemic impact that we've had is in 2018, we saw first in the nation legislation by our state legislature that requires LGBT cultural competency for the statewide network of aging services. So no matter what door you go through, who you meet, they've had basic foundational training and education. We've seen the addition of sexual orientation and gender identity questions on needs assessments. If you don't count us, we don't count. It brings that visibility forward. And then just recently, we saw the passage of a long-term care Bill of Rights for LGBTQ folks in the state of Massachusetts. So those are the big picture policy issues that have had impact. I think in terms of sort of what impacts individuals, over the past 20 years in Massachusetts, we've seen the development of a really large network of community-based programs for LGBTQ folks. So those are both in-person and virtual after the pandemic. So we have a network of more than 30 LGBTQ-friendly community cafes of community programs that are being hosted at councils on aging and senior centers. We've got virtual bereavement groups. We have virtual social groups. And more recently, I know we're going to get to my colleague at Outstanding Life, and they're providing a virtual community for LGBTQ older adults. So I think increasing visibility, making sure that people know that they can be linked to services and that there are ways to reduce isolation through social connection, whether in person or virtually, has huge impact on folks who otherwise are going to be facing social isolation. And we know the impact of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The AARP research team has done for a number of years a research study called Dignity. And each year we put in and a kind of little bit of a new spin on particular things related to the LGBTQ aging community, including on social isolation. And so, if there's data that we can help share in terms of that impact, we're happy to do so. For those who don't know, all AARP research is open to use by other folks after a year after it's been published, and even within that year. Oh, thanks, Antron. There's also some really great information there that stretches across the LGBTQ community, but also for in 2024, for the first time, we also were able to have data that actually is parsable within the LGBTQ community. And I think that's one of the things that we're working really hard to make sure in the research community that we're able to do as well, so that we're not all sort of painted with this, I don't know, rainbow brush, right?
Mhm.
Because the experience is very different for parts of our LGBTQ community, and we want to know what those are. Like you mentioned earlier, we want to know what those needs are, so that we can work to fulfill them. I want to turn back a little bit and just talk about a little bit, bringing back to the video, but all of this work really is built on the work of our predecessors and the folks who came before us. And so I'd really love to take a quick minute to turn to the audience and ask them to respond to a prompt. And that's, who was someone from a different generation that supported or mentored you in terms of, and supported or mentored you? So feel free to respond to that in the chat, and Lisa and I will talk a little bit about that. For me, one of the first people that comes to mind was a teacher from my middle school who I never had. Yeah, I was never in his class because I was always too scared to be in it, but he was our theater director. And my friends were all in theater and did that type of thing. And so I became the stage manager without ever being in a theater class. And he and I are actually now friends.
Mm.
40 years later, 30 years later, I won't mention his particular age, but he's been a mentor since I was in middle school. And I don't think he even knew that, because I, again, was never really in his class, but I really was inspired by him. So I'd love to hear from you about, someone who inspired you or supported you in this work.
So I have to say, I got involved with the Aging Project in 2001 and became the director in 2005. And I have to say that the LGBTQ older adults who I've met, who have been the pioneers, have sort of led the way. Whenever we're in the Pride Parade and we're marching down and there are all these young people on the streets, I will say very loudly to them, you would not be here without these people. Give them some love as they ride on the trolley through the Boston Pride Parade. And so I think of a couple, Lois and Sherry, who were Granddaughters of Bilitis in Boston for many years, and they created safe space and havens for people, and took risks that we take for granted today. And so I am always very grateful to the very many LGBTQ older adults who made it possible for me to live the life that I live today.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. I'm really loving seeing all the responses back from those mentors and sponsors and supporters from generations before. It's so important for us to also keep them in mind and recognize them as we do these types of things, and make sure that they get their flowers as well, because a lot of them did it in quiet and behind the scenes, but they are the shoulders we stand on, and it's really important for us to keep them in mind and really celebrate them as we continue this amazing work.
And just one other
Yeah.
thing about that, in the for most of us, the people who raise us, the families we're born into, tell us about our legacy, tell us about the generations that we come from. And in the LGBTQ community, we don't have that. There's no one to teach you kind of your history. And so there's the way in which we kind of honor our gay grandparents, if you will, but
Yeah.
the generations who came before us. And it's so important for younger people to have those connections with the older generations, to kind of keep that history vital.
That's absolutely true. In my off hours, I sing with the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, and I've been in there. I've been a member for over 20 years. And when I first started, I was one of the youngest in the chorus, and now I'm sort of moving a little bit closer to the other side of the chorus. But I'm being able to be in a space where there are literally people in their 90s, and there are people that are 18 years old in that chorus, and being able to be in a space where you can make something beautiful together is just a really powerful thing, and being able to have those connections is really really important for us. So thank you so much, Lisa. I know the AARP Massachusetts team has been connected to the LGBTQ community for a long time, including service on the commission, and at the national level. Like I mentioned, we've had those host of partners, and we're continuing that valuable research on behalf of this community that is us, right? That is part of who we are as as a group. So now I want to introduce Jennifer Knight, who's the Director of Marketing and Outreach at Outstanding Life. And Lisa mentioned earlier, it's an organization that strives to improve the quality of life for LGBTQ older adults by creating opportunities for connectedness through free online programming. Jennifer.
Thank you, John Paul. My name is Jen Knight. I am a cisgender, middle-aged white woman with short brown hair, brown eyes, and bold black clear glasses. I'm wearing an orange shirt with a gray sweater over it, and I identify as an ally. Next slide, please. Oh, it's coming. You can go on to the next one, Antron. So, opening in 2023, Outstanding Life is a free virtual senior center and social networking platform for LGBTQ older adults in Massachusetts and beyond. We offer free culturally affirming programming 3 to 5 days per week and currently have over 550 members in our virtual community. Next slide. The safety and privacy and confidentiality of our members is Outstanding Life's top priority. In order to keep our community safe and secure, the Outstanding Life platform is not accessible to the general public. One must request access by clicking the Join button on our website. The only eligibility requirements are that you self-identify as a member of the LGBTQ community and self-identify as an older adult. I like to tell folks that if you're age 50 or older, you're a Gen Xer or a baby boomer, you will feel right at home in the community. And I would like to emphasize that there is no cost to join our community or participate in our programs. Next slide, please. Outstanding Life's virtual programs are held in private, invitation-only Zoom rooms. We offer morning, afternoon, and evening programs to meet the schedules of our retired members, as well as those members who may still be working. Programs are designed to be interactive, fun, educational, and culturally affirming. Folks are encouraged to have their cameras and microphones on, engage in conversations, ask questions, and develop relationships with each other. Next slide. Here's some of our most popular programs. The Advocacy Hour. It is a community conversation about LGBT and aging advocacy and activism in efforts to respond to the times that we're currently living in. Earlier this year, we were thrilled to have Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley join us for a spirited conversation. Support groups. Outstanding Life offers a number of support groups, including a peer-led LGBTQ support group, a transgender non-binary support group for older adults, and in the past, we have also offered a grief and grieving education group. And then there's game night. It's everybody's favorite. It's an evening program where nobody keeps score, nobody wins, and nobody loses. It's time full of fun, laughter, and enjoying each other's company. Next slide, please. Outstanding Life offers many LGBTQ-focused programs that have included a concert by the Queer Ensemble from Boston, LGBTQ health and wellness presentations, a coming out day, Black lesbian model of social protest, pride crafts, growing up gay, and more. Next slide, please. Outstanding Life holds an average of 10 to 15 programs per month. Some of our regular monthly programs include book clubs, legal lunch and learn, tech talk, virtual Voyager, weather wisdom, and social hours. And because we're building a supportive and an interactive community, we encourage our members to host their own programs. Outstanding Life has held author readings, writing workshops, and even a jewelry making demonstration, all hosted by Outstanding Life members. Next slide, please. So why do we do what we do? The concept of Outstanding Life was born out of the recommendations from the listening sessions hosted by the Massachusetts Commission on LGBTQ Aging. They recommended the development of a virtual senior center that could be accessible to all interested parties, providing information and referral, as well as opportunities for socialization. And they suggested that folks might want to retain privacy and confidentiality, so that's why they recommended it be a virtual environment. Next slide, please. LGBTQ older adults are at a greater risk of social isolation and loneliness than their straight peers. This slide presents some significant statistics from the AARP Dignity Report that was referenced earlier. Conveniently, there's a link to the report in the chat. Outstanding Life is committed to uplifting our members impacted by the homophobia, transphobia, racism, and sexism that can lead to social isolation. We create opportunities for meaningful connection between LGBTQ peers, lessening the harmful impacts of social isolation and loneliness. We give folks a place where they can safely be themselves, where they can make meaningful relationships, share joyful experiences, and where they feel supported and heard. Next slide, please. Outstanding Life is proud to be making a difference in the lives of our members. And here we're showing some feedback and quotes from our members, and I will read them. The first one is from Carla. Being an older person, a transgender person, just transitioning, there was nothing available. It was great to meet other trans people on Outstanding Life. It was just that idea that, okay, there is a place for us older trans people to get together and not feel so alone, because that's what I was feeling, alone. And then Robert, who just recently actually joined our board of directors. Being an older gay man means often feeling invisible. That's why Outstanding Life matters. We are still here, we are still living, still laughing, still building community. And the last slide, please. And finally, Nina. It's a heterosexual world. That's the world that we live in. That's the world we all live in. And I just feel like I don't belong much of the time. Outstanding Life gives me a place where I feel I fit. So before passing it over to Antron, I would really like to emphasize the importance of building community for LGBTQ older adults, especially now when many feel quite vulnerable. I hope this webinar inspires you to take that first step towards building a more inclusive community. You can take it away now, Antron.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that information, Jen. That was just wonderful learning about Outstanding Life and all the work that you all are doing, virtually and really, creating that opportunity for people to connect. As has been mentioned, I'm Antron Watson. I am a African American male, straight ally. I am the Associate State Director for Age Friendly Work here in Massachusetts. As Dennis mentioned earlier, the question is, what is age friendly? As Dr. Ethel Perthy-Andrews said, what we do for all. And I'm really passionate about our collective work on the age friendly communities, in part because of the intense focus on inclusivity that we really put behind the work here in Massachusetts, really including that voice of older adults, but also really leans into what it means what makes our environments work together to make them better, support the well-being of people of all ages, especially older adults. And we feel it's extremely important to connect the conversation about fostering inclusive communities with the LGBT plus community, like many marginalized groups, they've experienced discrimination in housing, transportation, and even in public spaces. So now more than ever, with the age-friendly work, we're able to address that still, and make sure everyone is included in the well-being of our communities. So here are some key aspects of our collective efforts. AARP advocates for a network of age-friendly states and communities, and I'm happy to report that in Massachusetts, we have about 125 communities that are focused on the issues related to affordable housing, access, transportation, walkability, among others. And of that, we have almost 200 plus communities that are part of regions that are also addressing this work locally. And nationwide, we're over 1,000 communities at this point that are all looking at making our communities better for people of all ages. So, as John did earlier, we want to make sure you all are engaged. So we actually have a question around walkability, which is one of the main focuses here in Massachusetts, and an area that we've seen as a point for why some people are not engaging in their communities, is how walkable it is. So the question we have for you, which should be popping up on your screen now, is in a walkable community, what matters most for the LGBTQ plus connection and pride? Is it feeling safe and comfortable walking as myself, seeing visible LGBTQ plus representation in the community, having accessible spaces to gather and celebrate, or building everyday connections with others nearby? I see some answers coming in now, so give it a couple more seconds. Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing and answering that question. And it looks like we have the one is having accessible spaces to gather and celebrate, is what's most important to everybody. So, I think that really ties back to what we're trying to do here with our age-friendly work here, and our focused attention on our public spaces, and the opportunity for folks to connect, but also to get there. So now that, a shared bit, where am I at now? Oh, and so now that I've shared a little bit about the work that's happening here in Massachusetts, I wanted to dial it back. I'm going to bring Dennis back on. He's going to help me and really give an overview of the age-friendly network, the 8 domains of livability, and how that plays into everything we're doing across the nation. Dennis.
Camera on, microphone on, we're good to go.
We're good to go.
Yep. My name is Dennis Hohengasser. I'm a white gay man in my a little bit farther than 70. And we're going to talk a little bit about the age-friendly network. The age-friendly state, the network of age-friendly state and communities encourage local leaders to implement changes that make communities more visible, more livable. It provides resources such as national and global research, planning models, and best practices to help cities, towns, counties, and communities and states become more age-friendly. AARP uses a framework to guide communities in their efforts to become livable. These are their 8 domains. Outdoor spaces, we're going to actually look at each of these one by one. When we talk about outdoor spaces and buildings, this helps ensure that public places are accessible and enjoyable to everyone. Just like that came real clear in the little poll that Antron did, that is important for people to have. We are into transportation, okay? Well, in terms of transportation, it provides a variety of transportation opportunities to accommodate everyone, because some people walk, some people drive, but some people use public transportation. And to evaluate all those different transportation opportunities and make sure that they're accessible to everybody. We spend more and more time in our homes than anywhere else. So housing costs, choices, and accessibility are critical. Great communities provide housing opportunities for people of all ages, all incomes, and all abilities, allowing everyone to live in a quality neighborhood regardless of their circumstances. More than 3/4 of adults age 50 and older want to stay in their homes, want to stay in their communities. They don't want to move out. Statistics that we should consider here is that people want to stay there. They sometimes they instead of moving into a place that has perhaps zero entry, has elevators. Some people oftentimes opt for something called accessory dwelling units. In these situations, costs to maintain the property are less, they're smaller, and they're physically easier to maintain. Participating in social activities makes people feel as if they matter to the community, which provides a sense of meaning and belonging. Social activities can help relieve the angst of perceived social isolation. In terms of respect and social inclusion, everyone wants to feel valued. Social inclusiveness and social gatherings and activities are a great way for people to learn from one another, honor what everyone else has to offer, and at the same time feel good about themselves. Why does work need to be all or nothing experience? An age-friendly community encourages older people to actively engage in community life and has opportunities for residents to work for pay or volunteer their skills. Some examples are senior civic academies, volunteering on city or town boards and work groups, providing an aging lens is key to success for an age-friendly community. Also volunteering right here with AARP. Age-friendly communities recognize that information needs to be shared through a variety of methods, since not everybody is tech savvy, not everyone has a cell phone, or not everyone has a home-based access to the internet. Community support is strongly connected to good health and well-being throughout life, alongside accessible and affordable healthcare services, which are vital for maintaining health and independence.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for really going through the 8 domains. I think you think about some of the overlap of a lot of the conversation that's been here today, really talking about the parks and public spaces, transportation, and really our housing, and really thinking on how do we stay connected in our communities, and having to move somewhere and having to start a community again is not an easy process or a fun process, I would think, for some. But it's this age-friendly initiative really provides that platform for us all to get engaged in that process of really making our communities great for everyone. And I think some of what both Jen, Lisa, John, Paul, and Dennis have all said today, and the video have really harkened back to the communities that we create. We have the ability to create the communities that we want, but also to get the support of our states, our community leaders, our advocates to really advocate for the things that matter most to us and what make our communities great. Because one of the things that we always say in the livable space, in the age-friendly space, is if you're doing it you're creating a community for an older adult, you're creating a community that benefits everyone. And the same thing is if you're creating an inclusive environment, you're including everyone in those conversations, and just making that environment great for people of all ages to live and enjoy life as they choose. A couple of resources, as we talk about really creating or making these spaces in your community. Since public spaces did come up as the top one, it's kind of great that the first resource is that. If you're looking at parks, look at the parks in your community. Are they active? Are there ways that they can be improved, or is there an opportunity for a pop-up? These are two great resources that AARP offers that really supports or walks people through auditing their parks and seeing how engaging the park is for individuals to participate and gather safely and have fun. Pop-ups is always a great way of taking a space that hasn't been fully activated and reactivating it, bringing friends together to share and have the conversation, socialize. I think we mentioned it earlier. Socialization is key for older adults, especially our LGBTQ community. Some other resources as we talk about walkability and food security. Obviously, getting to locations is important. Do we have sidewalks? Are you walking in the street in some parts? Has it become a habit of walking in places where it's not safe to walk? Being able to access transportation options that get you to and where you need to, so that you are able to, go to your doctor's appointments or get to those social engagement opportunities. But then we talk about food security. All right. I mean, I am an avid yard person. I love to be out in the yard. But thinking about, food, creating a garden. Is there a community garden in your neighborhood, or in your community? Is it something that folks have always talked about but never acted on? Here's another resource that really walks people through creating a community garden, and the several benefits that come along with that. You have your food access, but also you're creating that community again and that opportunity for social connection. These are just some of the resources that we've shared here. Um, our Livable Community site has a wealth of knowledge and additional resources that are available. You can always find those at aarp.org /livable. There's a wonderful newsletter where they're always sharing new ideas and great practices that are happening nationwide. So please take some time to join that newsletter. Check out the landing pages because there's a lot happening nationwide, and in Massachusetts, we're seeing a great deal of communities working and being innovative in the way that they are creating communities, and we want to make sure we're sharing that with you all. But as we come to a close, kind of wrap this program, I want to thank all of our speakers, but I also want to give you all the opportunity. If you have questions or any final comments from everyone, I'd welcome that.
Antron, I have a comment.
Yeah, please.
If you have the opportunity to do a walk audit in your city or town, take advantage of it. I live in Taunton. I have never spent a lot of time downtown, and there was a walk audit going on that I participated in. I learned more about the city, and number two, I learned about the difficulties crossing some of the streets. I also drive a lot differently now because I am more aware of pedestrians who are trying to cross. And sometimes, like you said, the timing of the lights aren't correct. But it had multiple benefits for me. And I think one of the most important ones is I drive differently now in the city to make sure that I'm aware of people who are on this walking across the street, trying to get across, either because of an infirmity that they have, taking their time, walking with children or a stroller and those types of things. So if you have an opportunity to do a walk audit, take advantage.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that one, Dennis. Awesome. Lisa, so you came off mute.
Just to sort of piggyback to what Dennis said, even though we're talking about spaces, talking about with the creating public spaces, benefit people across the generations. You know, what's good for one community is good for all communities. And so having better parks, having community gardens, having a more walkable city benefits people across the generations.
Love that. Benefiting people across the generations. I love that. And Jen, I see you shared as well. Another walk audit in your area was eye-opening. That's wonderful. Ooh, that's a lovely one, John Paul. Do you want to talk about that one briefly? You want to share that idea?
Sure. I'm actually in California right now on a work trip, and I'm actually excited about flying home during the daytime so I can actually see the leaves across the country sort of blossom as I'm getting back to DC. But in my neighborhood, one of the things that we in DC that we work on or look at quite often is like the tree coverage, right? So being able to identify what trees are there. Can you tell the difference between an elm and an oak and a ginkgo biloba or whatever, Japanese maple trees that are coming along, and knowing what that kind of what that is in your neighborhood can actually really help in case of when you're looking at what trees you should plant in your own yard or what might thrive in your own yard or something nearby. So I just love the idea of leaf peeping walk audits. It just popped in my head.
That's creative. And that's the other thing, right? You can be creative with all of these. They're just a template. There's no one right way of doing it at all. So leaf peeping or bird watching on a walk audit or whatever works for you. I think that's what these tools and resources are about. I love it. Thank you for sharing that link in the chat, John Paul. Well, as we close, again, I want to thank all of our speakers and everyone for joining us today, and you all for sharing, your insights on how we can be great stewards of really creating communities that are inclusive for everyone. And with that, I want to share. If you're looking at future events, you can always visit. Excuse me, I'll put it in chat. AARP.org/local to find out what events are happening in your area. But John Paul also shared a wonderful movie screening that we're going to be doing on October 2nd with our Movies for Grown-Ups team of the movie Rent, which is always fun and is a great film about our LGBTQ plus community. With that, if there's no additional questions or comments, I want to thank you all again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.